Hello everyone, myself Harvahita, Assistant Professor of CSE Department from Rohini College of Engineering and Technology. I am here to explain a few concepts of this check CS 8601 mobile computing. We are going to see Unit 1 Introduction. The topic explained here is spread spectrum. The objective of this topic is to be familiar about the concepts of the spread spectrum. Let's see something about spread spectrum. The problem of radio transmission is the frequency dependent fading can wipe out narrow band signals for duration of the interference. So the solution can be given as the spread the narrow band signal into a broadband signal using a special code protection against the narrow band interference. So the narrow band signal is converted into a broadband signal using a special code protection. That is the solution for this spread spectrum. The sender now spreads the signal in step, that is, it converts the narrowband signal into a broadband signal. The energy needed to transmit the signal is the same, but it is now spread over a large frequency range. The power level of the spread signal can be much lower than that of the original narrowband signal without losing data. This is the diagram given for that. So the user signal is specified in the dock areas, and the broadband interference is added to that the narrowband interference is changed to broadband interference, and during the transmission the narrowband and the broadband interference add to the signal. The sum of interference and the user signal is received. The receiver now knows how to despread the signal, converting the spread user signal into a narrowband signal again, while spreading the narrowband interference and leaving the broadband interference. In the step 5, the receiver applies a band pass filter to cut off the frequencies left and right of the narrowband signal. Finally, the receiver can reconstruct the original data because the power level of the user signal is high enough, that is, the signal is much stronger than the receiving interference. Drawbacks. There are some drawbacks, that is increased complexity of the receivers that have to despread the signal, large frequency band that is needed due to the spreading of the signal, and although the spread signals appear more like noise, they still raise the background noise level and may interfere with other transmissions if no special precautions are taken. Spreading the spectrum can be achieved in two different ways as shown in the following sections. That is the direct sequence spread spectrum. It is shortly called as DSSS. This DSS system takes a user bit stream and perform an XOR operation with so-called chipping sequence as shown in the below figure. So this is a figure, this is the user data given here, and it is XORed with the chipping sequence. This is a chipping sequence given here, and it is XORed and the resulting signal is given here. So in this case, when we are XORing, that is, the example shows the result is either the sequence of, this is taken as example, and if it user bit equals to 0, the sequence is this one, the first one given here, and its complement is the ones complement. So if zeros are there, we will convert it to ones, and ones are there, we will convert it into zeros. So if the user bits equal to 1. So while each user bit has a duration TB, the chipping sequence consists of smaller pulses called chips with the duration TC. So the duration of this chips are called as TC, or chipping sequence is called as TC. So if the chipping sequence is generated properly, it appears as the random noise. The sequence is also sometimes called as pseudo noise sequence. So when this chipping sequence is generated properly, it appears as a random noise. It is also called as pseudo noise sequence. The spreading factor, that is the S, is equal to TB by TC. It determines the bandwidth of the resulting signal. Okay, the spreading factor can be calculated using the formula S is equal to TB by TC. So TC is the duration, TC is the duration, and that is chipping duration, and TB is the user bit duration. Okay, so the spreading factor S is calculated by the user bit duration TB by the chipping sequence duration TC. So if the original signal needs a bandwidth W, the resulting signal needs S dot W after spreading. So consider the original signal with the bandwidth W, the resulting signal after this applying the spreading factor we will get as S dot W after spreading. So this is the diagram here given, and this is a user bit or user data, that is TB. Okay, so it is XORed with the chipping sequence. This is a chipping sequence given and the resulting signal is obtained here. Okay. Then frequency hopping spread spectrum. For frequency hopping spread spectrum, that is FHSS systems, the total available bandwidth is split into many channels of smaller bandwidth plus the gauge spaces between the channels. The transmitter and the receiver stay on one of these channels for a certain time and then hop to another channel. This system implements FDM and TDM. The pattern of channel usage is called the hopping sequence. The time spent on the channel with a certain frequency is called the dwell time. Okay, hopping is nothing but you are moving from a place to next place. So here in the frequency hopping spread spectrum, the systems, the available bandwidth is split into many channels with the smaller bandwidth plus the gauge spaces or the spaces between these channels. Okay, so the transmitter and the receiver, they stay in these channels for a particular certain time and hop to another channel. So this time when they are spending in a channel, this is called as a dwell time. Okay. So the pattern of channel usage is in the hopping sequence manner, that is frequency hop spread spectrum, that comes into two variants that are slow hopping and fast hopping. In this is the diagram given in the case of slow hopping and fast hopping. Okay. So in slow hopping, the transmitter uses one frequency for several bit periods, and in the above figure we show, this is a figure, we show a 5 user bits with the bit period TB. Performing the slow hopping, the transmitter uses the frequency F2 for transmitting the first 3 bits during the dwell time TD. Then the transmitter hops to the next frequency F3. Slow hopping systems are typically cheaper and have relaxed tolerances, but they are not immune to narrowband interference as fast hopping systems. For example, in the fast hopping systems, the transmitter changes the frequency several times during the transmission of a single bit. So in this above figure, that is in this figure, see, consider in the slow hopping in 3 bits, they are for a user data, it occupies 3 bits, but in this case in fast hopping, in a bit it severally hops, fastly it hops, that is, see, 3 bits per hop in slow hopping, and in fast hopping 3 hops per bit. Okay. So in per user data, that is per bit, in the user data each bit we have 3 hops in fast hopping, but in the slow hopping each hop occupies 3 bits. So that is the difference between these two. So the fast hopping systems are more complex to implement because the transmitter and the receiver have to stay synchronized within smaller tolerances to perform hopping at more or less the same points in time. So however, these systems are much better at overcoming the effects of narrow band interference and frequency selective fading, as they only stick to the one frequency for a very short time. So this is the diagram given, in which the user data is applied to the modulator, in which it applies as a narrowband signal, and we give some frequency synthesizer hopping sequence through the frequency synthesizer. We are applying it to the modulator, which will spread the transmit signal. So in the at the receiving end, this receive signal will be given to the demodulator, which will be given as the data to the receiver. So this is the diagram given. These are the questions which can be asked related to this topic. Thank you.